Judged by the stars. High Commander Velzan of the Ziraxi Empire stood at the command dais aboard the ISS Zenith, his antennae twitching with distaste as Earth's data scrolled across the holoscreen. Primitive, he hissed. The planet, third from its yellow sun, was a mess of fragmented nations, obsolete combustion engines, and Bale-illiterate digital networks. No warp capability. No planetary shields. No central authority. Wise, the species seemed locked in constant petty squabbles. To Velzan, this was a textbook candidate for uplift and assimilation, just like the last 14 primitive worlds absorbed into the Empire without firing a shot. Send a delegation, he ordered. Let's see if the mammals can comprehend obedience. The Ziraxi delegation descended over Geneva in a display of overwhelming superiority. Their obsidian lander hovered on silent repulsors, blotting out the sky. A dozen soldiers in gleaming chitin armor marched out, escorting a towering emissary wrapped in regal plasma shields. Earth's leaders, an awkward coalition of presidents, premiers, and generals, watched warily. Some held diplomatic folders. Others clenched fists behind their backs. Emissary Thralix activated a universal translator. His voice slithered through the air. By order of the Ziraxi High Throne, this planet is deemed undeveloped and will be uplifted. Resistance will be inefficient. Obedience will ensure integration and survival. President Zhao of the UN Security Assembly stepped forward. We're open to peaceful dialogue, but Earth does not recognize the authority of your empire. Thralix's eyelights flickered in amusement. Mammals with delusions of autonomy. You lack warp. You lack order. You are fractured and irrational. We are your future. Kneel to it. No one knelt. Back aboard the Zenith, Velzan watched the feed with bored detachment. He tapped his claw against a glowing panel. Begin planetary restructuring protocols. Deploy governance stations to all major continents. Extract resources. Subdue any pockets of dissent. His subcommander nodded. Estimated compliance within 6 cycles. They were already writing humanity's obedience into their reports. But humanity wasn't obedient. By the time the first Ziraxi governance module touched down in New Delhi, it vanished off the network. Another installation over Sao Paulo was bombarded with hijacked satellites. In Siberia, Ziraxi drones stopped responding, later found crushed under derailed train humans had rigged remotely. The Ziraxi called it technological anomalies. Earth called it the opening shot. When the translator AI on the Zenith began speaking only in Shakespearean English, Velzan growled, "What is this nonsense?" His science officer blinked. "It appears they've hacked the neurolinguistics node. So, these primitives. They're not primitives," Velzan snapped. Too late. From orbital jammers to viral AIS, humanity had begun to fight not with equal firepower, but with chaotic brilliance and defiant ingenuity. The Ziraxi had expected fate. Instead, they found a species that smiled as it bled. They thought we were backward. They thought we would kneel. They never understood that humans don't fear empires. We end them. Deathworld response. The first Ziraxi troop transport exploded mid-descent over the Andes. They had no idea what hit them. Later analysis, what little was left, showed a jury-rigged missile system built from a weather satellite, a stolen fusion cell, and half a university physics department. All across Earth, the same pattern emerged. Chaos, confusion, collapse for the Ziraxi. In the Kenyan highlands, farmers lured patrols into cattle pits lined with metal spikes. In the ruins of a French suburb, teenagers with 3D printed drones dropped acid canisters into alien supply dumps. And in Karachi, a hijacked Ziraxi lander slammed into their local garrison in a suicide run guided by an old flight simulator. The invaders couldn't understand it. They lacked coordination, his commander Verith, reviewing failed battle reports from 12 continents. They lacked structure. They shouldn't be able to resist like this. His aide, blinking nervously, replied, "We predicted surrender within 1 planetary cycle. But their attacks are decentralized, evolving. They are adapting faster than we can respond." The truth was worse. Humanity didn't need orders to fight. It only needed a reason. And the Ziraxi had given them plenty. Underscore 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 underscore. In the forests of British Columbia, Captain Amina Reyes led Resistance Cell Echo. Once a disaster relief specialist, now a field commander, she coordinated global sabotage strikes from an old hydroelectric station. Their weapons were stolen parts and scrap metal. Their army, civilians, farmers, former gang members, and coders. On her cracked tablet screen, red dots marked known Ziraxi locations. But more important were the green ones, uprisings. She smiled grimly. They expected us to break. Instead, we multiplied. Her second-in-command, Malik, grunted. Still no word from New York. She shook her head. Loss comes, but if they are alive, they are still hitting targets. That was the unspoken rule of the resistance. If you could breathe, you could fight. Meanwhile, on the shattered outskirts of Berlin, a captured Ziraxi lieutenant was interrogated. His captors didn't torture him, not with blades. They made him watch. Watch human civilians laugh after blowing up a Ziraxi war mech with fertilizer and scrap wiring. Watch footage of a resistance fighter taking out 3 armored units with a crossbow and scavenged explosives. You're mad? He rasped. You have no chance. The old mechanic leaning against the wall smiled. Son, chance has nothing to do with it. The footage shifted, now showing resistance banners appearing in cities the Ziraxi claimed were pacified. They told us we were primitive, the mechanic said. But we come from a world that tried to kill us every day. Volcanoes, storms, plagues, each other. You think a shiny empire scares us? The aliens said nothing. Let me tell you what's coming, the human continued. You'll fall, not because we're strong, but because you're not nearly as strong as you think. And because you made the mistake of reminding us what we're capable of. The Ziraxi arrived expecting obedience. What they got was humanity unleashed. We built from their bones. In a bunker beneath the Ural Mountains, the hum of alien tech mixed with the sharp bark of human engineers. Dr. Eliza Tran wiped grime from her brow and leaned over the alien power core glowing on the lab table. Around her, salvaged Ziraxi components were strewn across shelves, plasma coils, neural fuses, grave stabilizers. All recovered from downed ships. All cracked open by Earth's finest minds. We've mapped 67% of the power matrix, she reported into her recorder. Their warp core is inefficient. Beautifully constructed, but no redundancy. No imagination. A beat. That's their flaw. They never had to improvise. The world's best minds, physicists, hackers, weapons designers, even tinkerers and garage inventors, had all been pulled into secret hubs like this. Fueled by desperation, anger, and sheer human creativity, they weren't just learning from the Ziraxi. They were rebuilding Earth's future, using the bones of the Empire. In orbit, the first human hybrid vessel, Unity 01, drifted silently. It didn't look like a spaceship. It looked like a nightmare. A Soviet rocket frame merged with scavenged Ziraxi armor. Propulsion came from jury-rigged grave thrusters, with a cockpit salvaged from a downed stealth jet. Captain Zoya Markovich sat at the helm, fingers tightening around the manual launch stick. No AI assistance, just grit and hope. She smiled bitterly. Let's show them what primitives can do. Unity 01 made its first jump using a half-stable warp tunnel. It emerged above Krelos, a minor Ziraxi colony known for its supply depots. The defenders barely had time to react before Zoya's crew unleashed hell. Magnetically accelerated rods, nicknamed God Spears, punched through hardened alloy like it was paper. Automated drones swarmed infrastructure targets, overloaded fusion cores, and shut down orbital comms. The entire colony was silent within 4 hours. Earth had struck back and left a scar. Back on Earth, resistance fighters now carried energy rifles powered by hybrid cells. Cities that had once been smoldering ruins became workshops of innovation. Even old tech came alive. Decommissioned satellites repurposed as kinetic orbital weapons. Cargo planes were transformed into high-atmosphere bombers. The resistance wasn't just fighting. It was evolving, and the galaxy noticed. From the jungles of the Kaveri homeworld to the industrial moons of the S-Hell, oppressed alien species saw what humanity had done. They began to rise, not in fear, but in hope. They called us the Firewalkers, the Empire Breakers, the Death Wielders who refused to kneel. Commander Velzon watched a dozen Ziraxi systems flicker red on the holomap. This was supposed to be a demonstration, he muttered. A lesson in power. His adjutant spoke quietly. It was, just not the one we meant to give. And then, across Ziraxi space, a signal pulsed. A message in human voice, broadcast in every language the Empire had ever silenced. You thought we were beneath you, that we had no teeth. You built your empire on the assumption we were too primitive to fight back. You were wrong. The Empire fell in ashes and all. Velkanau, throne world of the Ziraxi Empire, had never known war. For over 3,000 cycles, it had ruled uncontested, its sky full of silver spires, its people bred to believe in superiority. The idea of defeat was as distant as Earth itself once was. Now, black smoke curled above the towers. Ziraxi fleets burned in low orbit. Rebel ships, patched together by species once enslaved, moved in coordinated formations. And leading them, at the tip of the spear, was Earth's final gift to the galaxy. The Resolute Dawn, humanity's first full-scale interstellar dreadnought. It was brutal in design, led with jagged armor and kinetic launches. What it lacked in elegance, it made up for in devastation. Aboard, Captain Amina Reyes stood at the command deck, watching the Empire's capital fall through the viewport. Signal the resistance cells, she ordered. Commence final push. On the surface, chaos reigned. Alien resistance fighters stormed government hubs. Civilians, Ziraxi and alien alike, ripped down Imperial banners. 1,000 years of oppression shattered in a day, sparked by the one species that had refused to kneel. Inside the throne spire, Velzon waited with a personal guard. His command network was gone. His fleet, shattered. His rule, over. Yet still, his voice trembled with disbelief. How did it come to this? He didn't have to wait long. Amina Reyes and her strike team stormed the chamber, armor scorched, boots heavy with ash. She stepped forward, rifle lowered, gaze unflinching. You invaded our home, she said coldly. Called us animals. Assumed your empire was eternal. Velzon sneered. You're still primitive. Undisciplined. You lack vision. Amina's reply was quiet, but sharp enough to cut steel. No, we just remember what it's like to bleed. To lose. To survive. Your empire forgot that. He lunged. She fired. The High Commander of the Ziraxi Empire died before he hit the floor. In the days that followed, Earth refused to claim dominion. Instead, humanity broadcast a message across the stars. We are not conquerors. We came because you forced our hand. We fought because you left us no choice. But if you rise, if you break your chains, we will stand beside you. World by world, species that had long suffered under the Ziraxi yoke declared independence. Statues of emperors crumbled. New alliances formed, not of domination, but of solidarity. Humanity, once labeled backward and barbaric, became a beacon, a symbol. Years later, on a once enslaved world now free, a classroom of alien children listened intently. Their teacher, a grizzled SL veteran, pointed to a star chart. This, he said, was Earth, the world they thought was primitive. A child raised her hand. What happened to the Empire? The teacher smiled. They underestimated the wrong species. The Ziraxi came expecting worship. They got resistance. They called us primitive. And we proved, once and for all, that the fire of humanity doesn't burn quietly. It consumes empires.